So now that I've beaten Pokemon Legends Arceus, I figured it's time I give you my final thoughts on the game. After all, I gave you my final thoughts on Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, so I might as well give you my final thoughts on this game. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, when this game was first announced, I was really excited for it because I like the concept behind it. A game where you get to run around the Pokemon world capturing Pokemon and battling them, while at the same time trying to avoid getting killed by said Pokemon. So I was pretty much excited when the first trailer came out. However, over time I started to be a little nervous about this game, mainly because of how the graphics looked in the first trailer. I mean, the frame rate for Chingling was very choppy, not to mention this was made by Game Freak, and given how Sword and Shield was, I was honestly nervous about this game. And it also didn't help that Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were very mediocre at best remakes. However, I started to warm up to these games when the second trailer came out, showing off how the environments were, how the battle animations, as well as the overworld animations were. Not to mention, we get to see the different characters, so I was pretty much hyped for this game. And now that I've played it, what are my thoughts on it? Well, first let's start off with the negatives of the game, and there are only a few. Now, the first negatives that I have for this game, the one main issue that I have with this game has to do with the tutorial section. It takes pretty much 30 minutes to get through and it's kind of a slog. And I understand that this is a new battle system as well as a new type of gameplay, but still, they could have shortened it up a little bit. Now, the second negative I have for this game has to do with the inventory space. In order to expand your bag, you pretty much have to spend a crap ton of money on it. And when you spend your money, you pretty much only get one space. That's pretty much it. You have to keep spending more and more money in order to expand your inventory. I feel like that was kind of stupid. I kind of wish you had the ability to craft more spaces in your inventory. Now, the last con or negative that I have for this game has to be that the game feels a bit grindy and repetitive at times. Mainly because of certain tasks you have to fulfill in order to complete Pokédex entries for certain Pokemon. You either have to capture the same amount of Pokemon, or you have to utilize a certain move multiple different times. Not to mention, sometimes it will often count towards certain Pokemon that have to be found in space-time distortions. Keep this in mind, these same Pokemon that spawn in the space-time distortions have a low percentage rate of appearing, meaning you have to go back and forth whenever a space-time distortion appears, and it takes about 45 minutes for them to appear. But that's pretty much the last of the negatives that I have for this game. Now let's move on to the positives. So the first positive that I have for this game has to be the world itself. The world in Pokemon Legends Arceus feels more alive than ever. Pokemon actually interact more with the environment, and there are times where you see Pokemon sleeping. And it also helps with how Pokemon interact with the main player character, because it plays into what was said in previous Pokemon games, with other NPCs basically telling you that it's a bad idea to go out into the wild without a Pokemon because wild Pokemon will attack you from tall grass. Basically showing that in this time period, Pokemon are truly terrifying creatures, which then goes into another positive I have for the game, and that being the gameplay itself. I love how you get to run around the world sneaking up and observing wild Pokemon and how they behave. It also gives you a better opportunity to capture Pokemon when they're not looking. Not to mention, you could also distract them using a berry. And with them being distracted, it increases your catch rate of certain rare Pokemon. So you're pretty much encouraged to use stealth throughout the game. It also helps that the catching mechanic itself is kind of an improved version of the catching mechanic from Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. However, you're not forced to use dumb motion controls. Plus, capturing certain Pokemon or defeating them gives you certain items that you can use for crafting. Speaking of which, another positive that I have for this game has to be the crafting mechanic. I love being able to craft certain items, mainly potions and Pokeballs, from various different materials found in the areas. It pretty much shows you that this isn't a game that takes place in the modern times of Pokemon. This takes place in the past, meaning you cannot go to a Pokemart in order to get certain items. You have to make them yourself, or go to the small little shop in Jubilife Village. However, sometimes the shop in Jubilife Village won't carry the item that you want, unless you complete certain side missions which result in the item appearing at the shop. But it's more cheaper to craft your own items, which is one of the main reasons why I like this crafting mechanic. Plus, I also like how in the game you get to choose when to evolve your Pokemon by going into the menu and hitting the X button, which pretty much makes the item called the Everstone pretty much obsolete, assuming they continue with this type of way to evolve your Pokemon in future titles. And speaking of evolutions, you also have new evolutions for older Pokemon, more so Hisuian evolutions, some of which require certain items in order to evolve them. And there are also trade items that you can use in order to evolve certain Pokemon without basically trading them. Meaning I can obtain a Magmortar without finding a friend in order to trade with. And another positive that I have for this game has to be the exploration aspect, because while you are told where to go to in terms of main story missions, in terms of side missions, while you're told where to go, the game doesn't point you to the right direction. It's up to you, the player, to find out where to go and what to do, and it encourages you to explore everywhere, especially in terms of catching rare Pokemon. This is something I honestly hope stays with the main series Pokemon games, because I feel like some of the previous Pokemon games were lacking in terms of exploration. So hopefully later games expands upon this level of exploration. Now, the final positive that I have for this game has to be the story. While it is partially similar to previous games, overall it's way different to previous games. Mainly because you're essentially a kid that was somehow transported back in time in order to solve a crisis that's connected to Arceus and the rampaging noble Pokemon and alpha Pokemon. Through this story, you get to encounter various different characters who happen to be the ancestors of current characters from previous Pokemon games, such as Commander Komodo and Silene. Throughout the story, you start to understand how their descendants wound up in the positions that they are now. Same with the other ancestors. Speaking of which, there is one ancestor that pretty much confirms the connection between two certain characters from two different regions. That's been a long-standing theory within the Pokemon fandom. I'm not going to tell you who, but it's a pretty big one. So overall, I'd have to say, with the positives and negatives in consideration, I'd have to say this is the best Pokemon game I've played in a long time. Specifically since Generation 5 and Generation 7. With the exploration aspect of this game, the immersion of the Hisui region, the various different Hisuian Pokemon, which would give you speculation as to how these Pokemon disappeared in the modern day of Sinnoh, the expanded Sinnoh lore, the various different characters who are ancestors to other characters. This is honestly a pretty awesome game, and with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet looking good, I'm honestly hopeful for the future of Pokemon. Now, what do you guys think? Did you like this game? Did you dislike this game? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, don't forget to like this video, share this video, and if you want to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys all on the next video. Take care.